thank you for joining me. Today I am bringing you my second video focusing on the Floral Impressions suite. Today we're going to be making a fun fold card. So I will just run through the supplies that I'm going to be using. So I have got a standard white card base, but I haven't done any scoring because we're going to do some different scoring. So just in the white. For my inks, I have got some strawberry slush, and I'm going to be using some Pretty in Pink as well. From the Impressions A Bloom stamp set, I have got the two flower centres that are the solid dots. We're going to do some stamping with those. For my sentiment, I'm actually bringing in a sentiment from the Right Words stamp set, which is I know a good thing when I see it, and I see lots of good things in you. And then for my pieces of patterned paper and my bits of cardstock, I have got quite a list for you. So to start with, so you could use the same colour of cardstock throughout if you wanted to. I've used two different colours, so I've got some that's Pretty in Pink and some that is Strawberry Slush. Obviously when you see the completed card you can decide how you would like to do it, whether you'd like them all to be the same or whether you'd like them to be different, but I will run through them in terms of the measurements for the two different types of card that I've got. So if you want to recreate it, you'll know which pieces measure what. So I have got two pieces of Pretty in Pink that measure 5 centimetres by 14.5 centimetres, and then I've got one piece that measures 5 centimetres by 8.5 centimetres. For my Strawberry Slush, I have got two pieces that measure 2.4 centimetres by 8.5 centimetres, and then I have got four pieces that measure 5 centimetres by 2.8 centimetres, and then I've got another piece of Whisper White, and this measures 4.75 by 8.25 centimetres. So I will pop the measurements in the description box below as well, just so that you've got them to reference. For my Designer Series paper, I've got two pieces that measure 4.75 centimetres by 14.25 centimetres. And then I have got four pieces that measure 4.75 centimetres by 2.55 centimetres. So that is all of my pieces. I'm gonna pop all of those pieces back into the little bowl for now, because we're going to do the scoring of our card base first of all. So I'm going to pop that bowl to one side, and then we're going to bring in our card base. So there is some scoring and some cutting. So you're going to want to make sure that you do your scoring and your cutting in the same order. Otherwise you'll get confused and or chop off something that you're not supposed to. So we are going to start with the long side along the top, and we are going to score at 5.25 centimetres, like so, and then you can shift it along and score again at 15.75, or you can rotate it and score again at 5.25. So that's the first bit. Now we're going to do two cut lines. So we are going to line up our card with 3 centimetres, and we're going to cut between the two score lines. So just be careful not to go too far, like that, and then the same on the other side. So I'm just going to line up with the 3 centimetres on the other side of my trimmer, but you could flip it round if you were more comfortable doing it that way. So just carefully up to the score lines. Okay, now we're going to rotate, and we're going to score from the outer edge to the first cut line at 10.5 centimetres. Make sure you're using your scoring blade and not the cutting blade. And then we're going to rotate and do the same again. You could keep your cardstock in and just lift your arm and your scoring blade if you wanted to. It's the same. I just think it's a little bit easier to do it that way. Okay, and then we are going to do another score line. So we're going to line up the edge of our card with 7.75 centimetres, and we're going to score between the two cut lines. And then I'm going to rotate my card 180 degrees and line up again with 7.75 centimetres and score between the two cut lines. And there we go. So what you should be left with is something that looks like this. So now we're going to do some folding. So I'm going to take these two sections here and I want that to fold outwards. So I'm just going to kind of gently encourage that. And then the same again at the bottom. Then either side of this central panel, I want my fold to go the same way. So I'm just going to gently encourage that on both sides, like that. And then our outer folds, we're going to fold inwards like that. And then again on the other side. And then when you've done that, you can come back in and encourage the rest of those folds like so. And then we fold like that. You can encourage those score lines as well. So the only ones I haven't done with the bone folder are those. So I fold it like that. And then again like that. So this is kind of what you're going to end up with. Okay, so now let's bring in our bowl of bits and pieces. So I'm going to start by matting my larger pieces together. Then we'll do a little bit of stamping and then we can do the kind of proper putting together. So let's pop those together. I'm going to use some Tombow because it gives me that little bit of wiggle room. So that on there, and we want a nice even border all the way around, and it should be a nice little skinny border. So I'm going for the florals facing outwards for my large panels. Ooh, a little bit of a wiggle, there we go. So there's those pieces, and then I'm going to bring in my white piece and then my two kind of thin strips of strawberry slush, and I'm going to bring in my smallest dot and my Pretty in Pink ink. And what I should have done, I'll just use that. I should have grabbed a bit of scrap paper, but this scrap piece of card will do the job. So I'm going to ink up my dot. I'm going to stamp off. Didn't do that very well. Stamp off. And then do secondary stamping. Actually, No, I'm not. I'm just going to go for it. Straight on. And making sure I'm getting a few that are kind of off the side as well, like that. And then let's close that up. And then I'm going to grab my strawberry slush and my larger circle. And I am going to bring in my strawberry slush cardstock. And I think I will stamp off this time. Oh no. No, we'll go full strength. Ooh. There we go. And I'm just kind of going a little bit on, a little bit off, like that. So I'm just kind of creating my own little pattern. So some of my dots are kind of more off than others, but that's fine. And then just do a tiny bit in that corner. Perfect. While my strawberry slush ink is open, I'm going to bring in my white panel and my sentiment stamp. So just give that an ink. Yeah, that stamps beautifully. And I'm going to aim for kind of central-ish. There we go. I know a good thing when I see it, and I see lots of good things in you. Okay, and then I'm going to close my ink pad before I have a disaster. Okay, and we can bring in our card base, and I'm going to stick down our long panels first of all. So again, you should have a really tiny white border all the way around. So one on one side and one on the other. Like so. Then we have got our strawberry slush stamped strips are going to go on these bits like that. I actually think they should have been a tiny bit thinner, never mind. There we go. Then we have got our sentiment piece is going to go onto our piece of Pretty in Pink. And then that is then going to go in that centre section. Like so. And then we've got our 4 pieces of patterned paper and our 4 pieces of strawberry slush, and I'm going to stick them so that this pattern is facing outwards. And again, there'll be a nice narrow border the whole way. And then we're just going to repeat this for all 4 of them. 2, oops, 3, and then 4, whoops. Like so. And then we're going to stick those 4 into these little sections. So I've used liquid glue. You could use tear and tape or seal, or even Seal Plus if you wanted to. I wouldn't recommend using dimensionals purely because there's quite a lot of layers on this card, and actually when you fold it up to pop it in an envelope it is a little bit bulky. So I wouldn't be reaching for the dimensionals for this particular card. We all know how much I love a dimensional, and it is incredibly rare that I create a project that doesn't involve dimensionals. But for this particular card, I'm not putting any on, which does feel a little bit strange. So when it stands up, it'll look something like that, and then the top down view is like that. I really like this card design. I think it's very simple to put together, but when it's together I think it looks quite impressive. It definitely looks like it takes more effort than it does. And then to fold it down to pop it in an envelope, you can fold it that way, you can fold it that way, you can fold, yeah, whichever way you wanted. You could alternate it so when it comes out of the envelope it looks like that, and then it will ping up, and then obviously you've got the whole of the back that you can write on if you want to, or you could just use the centre section, whatever you prefer. If you were going to put it in a larger envelope, you could, if you were going to put it in an A5 envelope, you could add a panel stuck across the back that would be stuck on this panel and this panel, that how would you do it? How would you fold the card to put it in the envelope? So you would fold, you either need it to be completely flat, yeah, if you were going to stick a panel on the back, you would have to, I think you'd have to make it into a box card, and you'd have to have it so that in the box / envelope it would already be upright. But you could, if you wanted to, stick a panel that measures to fit across with it like that, so you could have a large space to write if you wanted to or needed to, but you would have to put it in a box. I don't think there's a way around it to keep the same design. So sorry for that kind of rambling. That was because I was trying to figure it out while I went. So that is today's project, and then I just want to bring in and show you a scrapbook layout. Now it's not completely finished, but I have created this, and I wanted to use a nice big piece of this beautiful rainbow floral. So we've got some pictures from a trip that we went on to California. We went to the Knott's Farm water park, Soak City, and the men's changing room was Muscle Beach and the women's changing room was Bikini Beach. And then I have used the die from the Impressions A Bloom bundle. So I'll have a little journaling spot there, and then I've used the Modern Oval Punch and thought I would have a couple of smaller journaling spots there. But I didn't want to cover too much of this beautiful rainbow paper. So that is kind of my layout, but I didn't want to stick on my journaling spots before I've written my journaling. So this is the layout that I'm going to go with. I just need to write in what I'm going to write about our lovely trip. So that's it from me today. So you've seen my scrapbook page, and then this is the card that we created together. I do hope that you've enjoyed this video. If you haven't already, I would love it if you would go back and watch my previous video, which showed we made 2 cards together, and I showed you the 3 cards that will be featuring in my June classes. If you've enjoyed this video, please give it a like. Feel free to subscribe to my channel as well. If you ring the notification bell, you'll get notified whenever I post a new video. As always, in the description box below there are the links to purchase the products that I've used today, to join my team, and also my website so that you can book on to those June classes too. Thanks so much for joining me. Take care. Bye.